that she took the framed photo from the wall of the room where we were meeting, and she turned it upside down. That showed how she ranked her values. Anyway, Sister Caridad used to rail against the male members of the movement, especially those around her in New York, for being chauvinist. It was a contradiction within the movement, which she would not tolerate. Romy, Jing, Shan, Noel Reco, and even Dante Simbulan were often the targets of this reproach. Romy used to take opportunities, though, to tease Sister Caridad and purposely say things which he knew she would take notice of. But he did it playfully, with a wink towards us when Sister Caridad was not looking. We knew that Romy was enlightened about gender equality, and we knew he was just teasing. But it never failed to elicit a reproach from Sister Caridad. I always like to remember these lighter moments in our activist class. But on a more serious note, today, as we pay tribute to Romy, I would like to remind everyone that we also need to pay tribute to his family. Since Romy's success and achievement in being the people's lawyer and the people's lawyer's lawyer was born on the sacrifices of his family. His absence from them was a big price that he and his family had to pay. This reminds me of two things: that he was not unlike the Burmese heroine Aung San Suu Kyi, who stayed as a prisoner of the Burmese Myanmar government until very recently, and refused to leave her country even as her husband lay dying in London. That struggle was a big sacrifice by her family as well. And then, forgive me for, I hope you don't think I'm trivializing his life, but it also reminds me of the movie Casablanca. Has anyone seen this?
Yes.
The iconic 1942 classic starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. Set in World War II, it focuses on a man torn between love and virtue. He must choose between his love for a woman and helping her Czech resistance leader husband escape from Casablanca, Morocco, to continue his fight against the Nazis. It won 3 Academy Awards. I just want to read you the dialogue, and I think it applies so much to Romy and Nene, who we will think forever as Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. This is the scene as they were about to part. Rick, who is Humphrey Bogart, was trying to convince Ilsa, Ingrid Bergman, to get on the plane with her husband to flee Casablanca as Rick stays behind. And Ilsa says, "But what about us?" And Rick says, "We will always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night." And Ilsa said, "When I said I would never leave you." And Rick said, "And you never will. But I've got a job to do. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you cannot be a part of. I am not good at being noble, but it does not take much to see that the problems of 3 people don't amount to a hell of beans in this crazy world. Someday you will understand that." And here's looking at you, kids.
Before the other remembrances, there's the number in the program of singing of Awit ng Tagumpay. So we can sing along with this. If you have the program.
Laging ipaglaban, lupa, langit, dagat, kabut.
malulubi. Sumulong kabayan, tayo may lalaban, umurla sa piling, igsisigaw ang sulong. Tibayan ang hanay, gabihin ang kaaway. Tibayan ang hanay, gabihin ang kaaway. Sulong bayan, tayo'y magwawagi, ipaglaban ating karapatan. Ilagabi mo sila ng kanluran, bawat sulong ng bayan nagkabay sa tulay. Ang buong kauluhan, kapit bisig, hindi malulupit, bangon sulong, baya'y magwawagi, sabay-sabay, sila ng tagumpay, lusong tayo, sa eskwela at pabika, ibubudyan, sila ng kalayaan ng bayang may apoy, sa diwa at bibig, kapit bisig, hindi malulubi. Sumulong kabayan, tayo'y may lalaban, ukol lakas ang piling, isisigaw ang sulong. Sumulong kabayan, tayo'y may lalaban, sumulong kabayan, tayo'y may lalaban, sumulong kabayan, tayo'y may lalaban, sumulong kabayan, tayo'y may lalaban.
This was originally written in Filipino, but Lito was kind enough to translate these remarks by attorney Olalia, who worked closely with Romy for many, many decades. It's actually entitled, Why Indeed Was Romy Capulong the People's Lawyer and the People's Lawyer's Lawyer? Why indeed was Romy Capulong the people's lawyer and the people's lawyer's lawyer? Because he was human and his courage was contagious. The condemnation he heaped on people of authority when they offended him and when he saw injustice was not stinted. And the sharpness of his memory was awesome, up to the last detail. Romy was so thorough. He would make several drafts, would draft, edit, reformulate, edit, redraft, edit, re-edit, relocate, reformulate, and edit again. He didn't go for just work, especially when it came to documentation. Matchless were his dedication and commitment and the integrity he impressed on us, who followed and will follow in his giant-like footsteps to vouchsafe. He respected us young ones, well, at any rate, the younger ones. Though Sir was what had gotten accustomed to calling him. That's what we used to call him. He didn't introduce us to others as an associate or assistant, but as colleagues. He could also accept criticism, if this were founded, and he did not find it difficult to make self-criticism. He was not stinting in praise, but did not hesitate in making principled criticisms when necessary. Romy had some frustrations. He envisioned that people's lawyering became a truly appropriate and practical alternative for lawyers that didn't require undue or excessive material sacrifice. He didn't like the usual image of a human rights lawyer as a martyr. He was also tireless. He would say that activism is like riding a bicycle. If you are tentative and hesitant to pedal, you will come tumbling down. Romy was particular in insisting on the right way to counsel and action. He valued consultation and struggle of ideas. Even more precious to him were collective consciousness and unity. To defend the land of the peasants in Looc and the Coancos haciendas, Luisita. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I missed one. Forgive me again, let me try that again. Romy was particular in insisting on the right to counsel and action. He valued consultation and struggle of ideas. Even more precious to him were collective consciousness and unity. He had high regard for his clients. He was very patient and diligently listened to the masses. He recognized that the masses have unique and innate talents. He would consult with and apprise them in every phase of a case. He taught them not to put all their hopes on lawyers, and wholeheartedly served without expectation of payment or compensation. He encouraged them to probe, to accumulate strength and capacity and capability to help themselves, and to heighten their consciousness so that together they would arouse, organize, and act. And thus, why indeed was Romy Capullo the people's lawyer, the people's lawyer's lawyer? Likely because his skill as a professional lawyer, molded by his experience, practice, and history, melded with his patriotism and progressive orientation, and how this combination developed in his life and times. And because of the cases he handled and his viewpoint and standpoint on things. Because he appreciated that the cases and issues handled by a defender of the interests of the masses have a wide effect on the lives and interests of the vast majority of people. And because of this, Romy's principal clients were the peasants, workers, urban poor, women, youth, migrants, minorities, consumer and environmental activists, and revolutionaries. From fighting for compensation for the victims of the US-supported Marcos dictatorship to the desperate effort to save the life of Flor Contemplacion, to seeking justice for the comfort women enslaved by Japanese army in World War II, to advise in shaping of the historical documents of the Philippine government, National Democratic Front of the Philippines peace talks, to opposition to the U.S. military bases in the Philippines, to the Visiting Forces Agreement and APEC, to perseverance in pursuing the case of the brutal kidnapping and murder of the Union leader Rolanda Olalia, to defense of the land of the peasants in Coanco's Hacienda Luisita, to aid in negotiations for the interests of the unions and working class, to the victims of the Payatas garbage dump landslide in 2000, and the wanton demolitions of the urban poor habilitations, to opposition to the rise of the price of oil, to important legal input of the 2001 impeachment trial of President Estrada, to defense of the Batasan 6 Progressive Party list congressmen who were charging Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo's state election emergency in 2007, to defense of the Morong 43 health workers imprisoned in 2010, of hundreds upon hundreds of political prisoners, and against trumped-up cases hurled at his client, Joe Macizo. If Romy could speak now, he would surely greet you all this evening of reunion. Good evening to my clients and future clients. Many will attest to his skill in unexpectedly winning a host of cases, something unlikely in this corrupt, cumbersome, dirty, complicated, and reactionary legal system that is stacked in favor of the powerful and the rich. And because what he knew and taught us, that the source of our struggle and activity as the advocates of the poor and oppressed is not the laws, but the recognition that we are part of the forces of change in society. Because of this, some of you know that Romy did not like for us to be regarded as candy in someone's pocket, to be fished out when fancied, but disregarded or discarded otherwise. Romy Capullo was one of those who fervently believed in and upheld metalegal tactics of coordination inside and outside the courts. He saw that political action is more decisive. Romy strongly grasped the necessity for the correct and timely mix of legal and political analysis and action. He encouraged us to be critical of the prevailing laws, taught us not to worship these, but to view them from the point of view of our clients. Joined this with our being with their lawyers in order to attain unity in comprehending and handling their cases in the relationship of this to the realities of society. Romy often expressed that the laws, when stripped of their fancy dress, is in essence just the articulation of the interests of the dominant social classes. He grasped that the regnant laws and legal system are substantially the tools of the rule and state of the exploiting and oppressing classes, and that these are based on the economic structure. And so why, indeed, was Romy Capullo the people's lawyer and the people's lawyer's lawyer? Because he wasn't selfish, and because he used the law and the legal system to serve the people in the face of its narrow and cramped space, space that he pushed the limits of, and because in sum, he was true to his tenant farmer class origin and thought, feelings, analysis, attitude, and action are common. That is why he was the people's lawyer. That is why he was the people's lawyer's lawyer. He was a true father. Amen to Rome.
Rose started the remembrances by friends and family. And so whoever, if there's any one of you that would like to say something, anecdotes about your relationship with late Romy Capullo, thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the family, we'd like to thank you for organizing this remembrance. We're really overwhelmed by all the support that we've received in the last 2-3 weeks. And I wanted to, since my brother, who you probably know better than me, because he worked with you guys in the 80s, he asked me to say something tonight on behalf of the family. This is from Eduardo. I wish I could join you tonight. Death reunites. I am so sorry to miss old friends and comrades from Pag-asa, Kapatid, APC, Philsir, the Filipino Lawyers Committee, UGAT, OO, Ned and Narita and the assorted other groupings that you, Dad, and I were part of way back when. Some of my fondest memories are of us picketing the Philippine Consulate on 5th Avenue and the United Nations, poring over issues of law and meeting, always meeting after hours in Dad's old, now demolished office at Times Square. Thank you all so much for sympathizing with our family and commemorating Dad's life. As in death, Dad in life brought people together. He's traveled many, often opposing worlds, yet he remained true to his innermost beliefs. Despite the temptation of wealth and power that intoxicated and lured many of his contemporaries, to the end, he remained committed to fundamentally transforming society. Instead of being used, he used his wide network to advance the cause of revolution and socialism. And all the while, almost impossibly, he remained friends with those who otherwise were his political enemies. You should have seen the cross-section of people who paid tribute and the overflowing funeral arrangements that he's waiting. And realist flowers alongside the CPP's hammer and sickle, Karapatans and Gabrielas alongside Vice President Binay's, and Pawis is alongside Senator Villar. It's up to history to judge. There will be many times, not us. That's the kind of person Romeo was. Fierce, kind, forgiving, generous. It's been a heartbreaking 6 weeks for our family. Life will never be the same. But I join you tonight in a spirit of thanksgiving nonetheless by holding this tribute. You have re-strengthened the bonds that Romeo forged among us and our different worlds. Even though we've parted ways, I hope we all continue to make good on the visions that brought us together in the first place. Romeo's own vision, wherever we are, whatever we do. Magandang gabi at maraming salamat.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Camagong, and this is Robert Roy. We're both from Philippine Forum, and Philippine Forum is a community-based organization, and we shall say that Philippine Forum followed in the footsteps of Pag-asa. We were established in 1996 along with members of Pag-asa, Karen, Lito, Ana, and Mon, and of course, other activists who formed Philippine Forum, and up to now we are in existence. We have a community center in the middle of Queens. It's called Bayanihan Community Center. So for all of you who haven't visited us, we are right on the corner of 69th Street and Roosevelt Avenue in the heart of the Filipino community. It's called Bayanihan Filipino Community Center. So I just wanted to share that back in 2005, we had the honor of hosting Karomi here in New York in having a fundraising dinner for the support of the Public Interest Law Center, which at that time was being established. And we were able to mobilize his lawyer circle, his family, of course, fraternity brothers, Sigma Rho fraternity, and we had it at the International Church Center in front of the UN. And we were also honored to host a reception for him as being chosen as the ad litem judge of the United Nations at that time. So we're very honored to share this history with Karomi. And tonight what we're doing is we're going to read a poem that was written by Ruth De Leon Sumel. She is the wife of Antonio Sumel, journalist and first spokesperson of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines. She's also with the International League of People's Struggle. So we asked her permission if we can read a poem and a haiku that she wrote for Karomi back in 1997 and 2006. We will read it both in Tagalog and English. Maraming salamat po.
Sa panig ng masa, sinulat ni Karu Sumel noong 1997. Kanyang binaybay ang daan tungo sa katarungan. Bawat landas ay puno ng makapal na balakid ng panghahalina at pagkukunwari. Bawat sanghangdaan ay puno ng tinik. Bawat hakbang ay naglalakip sa tuyot sariwang dugong, bumulwak mula sa mga katawang sinibasi ng mga halimaw na nakamaskara ng mapagkunwaring demokrasya. Kanyang pinasok ang arena ng kaaway, sumambulat sa kanyang bibig ang mga katagang tumutusok sa kaluluwa ng kaaway. Kanyang minasdan ang simbolo ng katarungan ng mga naghahari. Diwatang may piling sa mata, may piling ang mata, at may hawak na sandata. At muling sumambulat ang talata sa kanyang bibig. Hindi bulag ang aking mga mata, ika niya. Malinaw ang aking paningin. Kung para kaninong hustisya ang aking pinaglalaban. Ang bigat ng timbangan ng aking kaluluwa ay nakakiling sa uling anak pawis. Ang sandatang hawak ko'y nakatuon sa mapangapit mapagsamantala. Bakit? Bakit? Tanungin niyo. Dahil ako'y mula sa masa. Dama ko ang bawat latay na humihiwa sa kanila. Dinig ko ang bawat ungol ng kanilang paghihirap at nagniningas sa aking himaymay ang apoy ng kanilang pakikibaka.
I stand with the masses. He tread the path in search of justice. The way is mazed with heavy bars to entice and deceive. Each crossroad thick with thorns and caked with dried and fresh blood of bodies assaulted by monsters masked with false democracy. He enters the enemy's chamber. Words burst from his lips, piercing the enemy's soul. He stares at the symbol of justice of the rulers, the lady in blindfold wielding the sword. Words poured forth from his lips anew. My eyes are not blind, he stated. My eyes clearly see for whose justice I give battle. The scale of justice in my soul is tipped in favor of the toilers. The sword I hold is aimed at the oppressors and exploiters. Why? You ask, why? Because I am of the masses. I feel the lashes that wound them. I hear each groan of their agony, and the fibers of my being is inflamed with the fires of their revolution. By Ruth De Leon Sumel, Utrecht, the Netherlands, written for Romy Kikapulong, 1997. Ito po ang susunod na tula. This is the next poem. It's actually a haiku. The title is A Haiku for Romy Capulong. It is not autumn of your life of great meaning, though sometimes it seems. For cold of winter cast a terrible shiver, you wish for spring. The fire of struggle in our people's brave heart is your summer's dawn. Ruth De Leon, February 15, 2006. So maraming salamat.
Hindi mahanap ni dito yung bayan ko, pero lang tayo marunong sumita. Okay, may dikalas na doon. Okay, ha? No, sorry. You know, we're running out of time, so we have to push. It's the last number, you know, and it's Bayan Ko. I think we all know this.
You can share the program. I know there are very few copies.
book that give you the sign so we can give it to the Kapulong before you leave.